statement on where you're at right now, and then we'll jump into questions.
I'm in the media room. Here's what I would say. I love living in Miami and the camaraderie we have with the community. On Saturday night, we took our players to Inter Miami's professional soccer game, and we had a blast. We got to meet David Beckham, and we told him a funny story. He laughed hysterically. My son Jay played for Real Madrid, and he was flying in, landed in Madrid, got picked up by the coach, and drove to the practice facility. And there was a huge crowd there. And Jay turned to the coach and said, "Wow, what kind of support is this?" Thinking it was for him. And he said, "No, David Beckham will be here in 2 minutes. That's who he is."
He was playing basketball with Real Madrid?
My son was.
Yeah.
Played,
Wow.
they won the national championship in Spain one year.
Mhm.
So, we're enjoying the opportunities that reaching the Final Four created, and we'll get back to work soon.
Questions?
I have a question. Isaiah has another year left that he could play. He's tested the waters a couple times, but he loves UM and he loves the college game and everything. Are you getting any sense of what he's doing, and is there a timetable?
Well, I think for Isaiah and any other player, they have to do what is best for them. And in this world, we have the transfer portal, we have NIL, we have all kinds of circumstances that players have to evaluate. And I'm very excited where we are. I'm very excited for the opportunities that our guys have. Isaiah's dream is to play in the NBA. So you can ask him what his thought process is and what he plans to do, but I don't think he knows quite yet what the ultimate decision will be. Of course, we'd love to have him back because he's just a terrific player and I love coaching him. But he needs to do what's best for him, just like everybody does.
How do those kind of decisions, when you're, as you mentioned before, speed dating, Match.com, you're recruiting now, the transfer portal. Do you have to know? I mean, I'm assuming you kind of have to know who's coming and who's going, so you can know who's coming in to replace them. How do you juggle all of that with the timing that the window is very short?
Yeah. I don't know. Seriously, you just don't know. There's too many options and too many question marks to know exactly. It'll start to clear up in another week or so, because there's only 1,380 kids in the portal.
Oh, I thought it was even 2,000, all right.
Yeah, no, 1,380 as of today.
Oh my God.
And so we have 3 in the portal ourselves. So things change every single day.
So you can't tell someone who's looking to come into your program, if you still have question marks, you can't really tell them with certainty this spot will be open or these spots will be open. You're just kind of talking.
Well, here's one thing we know for sure. Jordan Miller and Anthony Walker are graduating. They played the 4 spot for us. That's over 40 minutes of playing time available at the 4 position.
Mm-hmm.
So without naming any names, our coaches have to be very active in the portal of looking for a 4-man. You add Danilo Jovanovic, put his name in, that's 3 guys that can play the 4.
Hey Jimmy, I think we can talk about Michael Nwoko, right? He signed?
So
We can talk about Michael Nwoko, he signed, right?
Yes.
Okay, so is he a guy who you see an immediate role for? I know with freshmen it's sort of tricky to give a sense for the kind of athleticism he can bring to the team.
I never think we can know for sure what kind of contribution a young man can make as a freshman. But I will say this, Michael Nwoko is 6'10", 240 pounds, so from a physical standpoint, he's very physically mature. He's got a great body, and he's competed against at a high level. The other day, he played in the Nike Hoop Summit and went 7 for 10 from the field. Those are indications that, A, he might be ready to contribute mightily as a freshman, but you don't know until they get on the court with your players.
What were your thoughts of that performance?
Yeah, I like it. That's pretty darn good. I like anybody that can go 7 for 10 in any game.
Coach, just what positive impact do you think, making the Elite Eight and then making the Final Four has on both high school recruiting and recruiting in the transfer portal?
Well, I think we have a couple of different situations. High school recruiting basically takes place from now, April, through November. Because those kids are playing in the shoe company's circuits. We get a chance to go and watch them, we evaluate them, and then at some point they commit, like Michael Nowako did. He committed like last October. After that period, we go into the regular season, the postseason, and then we start with the portal recruiting, transfers. And we're at that stage now, and it'll be that way for about a month.
Anything else for Coach L?
Hey, can you just talk
Congratulations, Jim, great job.
No, we have more questions.
I was going to ask if you can just sort of reflect. You've had time to digest. We haven't seen you since you got off the bus here. How nice was it to have a season like this? Or was there any disappointment? You don't get so many Final Four chances. Just your emotions about the whole season.
Well, first of all, I was so happy the way the team developed its bond last summer. Almost every day during the summer was a positive. You have 4 freshmen, you have 2 transfers, you got 6 or 7 returning players, and everybody seemed to get along so well. And that continued with even great competition for playing time all through September and October, November. And what was really satisfying to me was having such a terrific scout team. Now, we had 4 freshmen in there battling every day, improving, helping us. And even though those 4 freshmen never got a chance to really experience extensive playing time, I thought they all really made a tremendous contribution. And then getting to the NCAA tournament, winning the regular season was quite an accomplishment. Getting to the NCAA tournament, and then I was so impressed with our ability to overcome the 8-point deficit in the last 4 minutes against Drake, go on a 16-1 run, and then to beat Indiana with a higher seed with a tremendous first-team All-American, and then to play the number 1 and 2 seeds in our bracket back-to-back with very little time to prepare. Getting to the Final Four is a tremendous accomplishment any year for any team. But I would have loved for us to play our game against Connecticut. I would have loved for us to have been at our best that night, and we just weren't, for whatever reason. Connecticut deserves some of the credit, but we also did not play to the best of our ability. And for me as a coach, I take on that responsibility. But I'm excited about next year. We've got a good group returning, and hopefully we can balance the returning players with a couple of incoming guys and be back in the hunt next year.
Coach, what are some developmental things with Wooga that you'd like for him to work on in the off season, and then just how do you think it'll go?
Well, I tell all our players, you got to work on everything, but you have to really have a good plan. You have to be proactive. You got to be seriously thinking about, okay, this is the part of your game that can really help elevate you. Last year with Wooga, I spent a lot of time, my coaches spent a lot of time helping him with his pull-up jump shot. It's not like it needed help, it needed direction. He needed to be reminded this can be a great part of your game. He already had the skill. He just didn't use it very often. Now he's using it more regularly, and that balances his game. And that's basically what we want for everybody, identify the areas that you need to work on and keep improving. So, with Wooga Poplar and Bensley Joseph, we have two veteran players now going into their junior year, who we're gonna count on tremendously, next season.
I was just gonna ask about Bensley, cause I know, he'd like to compete for starting position and all that, and again, I guess if you don't know exactly, do you expect Bensley to come back and are you,
I hope everybody comes back that can, we have three that won't, so I keep my fingers crossed every day, because as I said, things change every day.
what does he bring? What does Bensley bring, and what are you telling him?
Well, he's been a terrific leader, and he's been a terrific defender. He's a very, very good spot-up three-point shooter, and he's more mature now. He's got a great role on the team. I consider him a starter. He might not start the game, but in terms of minutes played and what we count on him for, he's really a starter.
I heard that he does the thought of the day, that he developed leadership position to the point that you guys used to rotate who does the thought of the day or something, and he sort of took that over. Can you talk about that evolution?
Yeah, we've been doing the thought of the day for over 30 years, and we normally would rotate and just ask anyone to volunteer the answer. And last year, when he was a freshman, I'd say, any volunteers, and he raised his hand like immediately, so I kept calling on him. This year, the same thing. We had a few other guys that, did the thought of the day early on, and then pretty soon Bensley took it over. I'm okay with it because I think it's a good way to develop your leadership skills.
Coach, obviously, next year's roster is far from finalized, but what are some things that you really like about the potential group of returnees and just the team next year?
Well, I had a laugh last week when I was surfing through Instagram, and I saw a post that had us ranked number 2 in the preseason poll. 2, 3, 8, 11. I'm like, holy Christmas, I don't even know who we're gonna have. These guys think they can pick us for top 10 in the country?
Coach, how would you rank this season? Obviously, it's the second time to the Final Four. Great teams here at Miami. How would you rank this season amongst the others?
That was the best in school history. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Last year, we got to the Elite Eight for the first time. This year, we got to the Final Four for the first time. It doesn't mean you're the best team in school history. No, you had the best year in school history.
And then I also want to ask, when a freshman enrolls in Miami and gets acclimated within your system, what are usually those early indicators that make you say that this freshman is going to play early and often? Just what are those early telling signs?
Normally, in a given year, it's their defense. Mostly in offense, guys can play offense. The indicator really is, can you defend a terrific player? Because almost every night in the ACC, you're playing against an NBA type guy.
Jim, with the run you guys had, Elite Eight followed by Final Four, was the list longer of players who wanted to transfer in, like people that are interested in your program? How much did that influence the fact that you had Elite Eight, Final Four?
Yeah, there are 1,300 kids interested in us right now.
Is it really? I mean, it's a lot more than before.
Yeah, but it doesn't make any difference. We will probably bring in 2 transfers, and that'll be it. And those guys will have to battle for playing time just like anybody else.
Jim, there's a lot of former players that came to Houston. The tradition is being built. Do you feel that?
Absolutely.
It's coming along?
Not just basketball players, but football players.
There had to be at least 100 people behind,
Yeah,
in the
and we
concourse.
love that the alumni are following and enjoying the success, and everything is about building tradition, because as you establish tradition, and I'll give you a perfect example. Our football program in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s had developed such a reputation that when we were recruiting basketball players when I first got here, the dads were all huge Miami fans. That says it. They love Miami. Why? Oh, I followed Clinton Borders, and I followed this guy and that guy, and I'm like, Ed Reed, and Okay. How about basketball? Oh, I don't know anything about your basketball program. So we're trying to create that.
Yeah, the 1985 guys took a lot of pride in what you guys did this year. The guys that restarted, they tried to get them all there. You know, and Seth Greenberg, of course, he was an assistant coach in that team. And he was very proud of it too, I talked to Seth.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.